Russia has infinitely more human resources to throw by force at the problem. They just straight up don't give a shit. They don't care. Of course, Ukraine has a right to defend itself, and Russia has no right to invade Ukraine. It's objectively not a fucking moral gray area. It's a black and white issue. America's involvement, on the other hand, is not due to their legitimate interest in Ukrainian emancipation. America's involvement absolutely is to keep funneling older weapons into Ukraine and you know, taking some of our military budget and directly putting it into Ukraine in their moral cause of purging the nation of Russian invaders, while simultaneously they get to atrophy and destroy a foreign adversary's military prowess while beefing up NATO, growing the military-industrial complex without a single care for Ukrainian civilians at all.
Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Washington, D.C., making his...
Russia invading Ukraine is not defending itself. It's just like Israel bombing and invading Gaza, ethnically cleansing and doing a genocide is not defending itself. Do you think Russia has a right to defend itself, and do you condemn? Oh, you're joking. Okay. If U.S. cared about maintaining security in the region, they wouldn't be beefing up Zelensky on the side and I don't know, whispering sweet nothings into his ear, claiming that they're going to write checks that their ass can't cash or doesn't want to. And as the war continues, as the Ukrainian ranks wither away, as the Russian government keeps throwing fucking more conscripts at the invasion, at the gruesome meat grinder that has become the trench warfare that they're engaging in, no matter what happens, it's like it's a wrap. Like, there's going to be an end to this. It's either today or 6 months down the line. And if it's 6 months down the line, that means all that many more deaths have occurred on both sides. That's a calculation that America can easily make, because it's not our guys dying out there. It's Ukrainians, so they don't give a shit. Never forget what Lindsey Graham and Elizabeth Warren collectively, like, they got together and said. Chris Murphy said the same thing. For 5% of our military budget, we've been able to take out 50% of a foreign adversary's military power without a single active duty service member dying in the process. I'd say that's money well spent. Okay? Some of you are going to die, and that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, is quite literally the Shrek meme. The King's meme from Shrek. So yeah, ultimately, whenever people say like, oh, why aren't we listening to the Ukrainians here? It's like, we're not listening to the Ukrainians. We never have from day one.
His case for the United States to offer more aid to support his country's fight against the Russian invasion. The deal's been deadlocked in Congress over a row about more funding for US border security. President Zelensky's met leaders in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, and he'll later travel across to the White House for talks with President Biden. Well, we're joined now by our correspondent in North America, Nomia Iqbal. Always good to talk to you, Nomia. So we saw President Zelensky arrive to Capitol Hill just a few moments ago. What happens now?
Well, what a difference a year makes. I remember last year when he arrived here to make his first speech to Congress, he was treated like a rock star. People applauded him, they pledged their support, they were very optimistic about the spring offensive and saying that they would do whatever it takes to help.
Look at the coverage too. They're like shitting on him. They're straight up dookie-ing on Zelensky. Like, being like, yeah, they treated him like a fucking king, a legend. Now they look at him like a fucking loser. He sucks. He's losing. He's losing the battle. He's making us look bad. We don't like that. Fucking nutty. They said fell off, L nerd, R.I.P. Bozo.
Ukraine win, but as I say, what a difference a year makes. He now comes to Congress where support for him, particularly amongst Republicans, is really fading away. And he's come here, as you said, to make that case, to continue supporting Ukraine. You've got this spending package that's stalled in Congress, which would see more than $60 billion be sent to Ukraine, and he's making that case. So he has met all 100 senators. Have a listen to Senate Majority Leader Democrat Chuck Schumer and what he had to say after that meeting.
It was a very powerful meeting. President Zelensky made it so clear how he needs help, but if he gets the help, he can win this war. And he outlined in some great detail, the kind of help he needs and how it will help him win. Even many of our Republican colleagues talked about we are winning this war. And if we get the help if he gets the help he needs, he will win. On the other hand, he made it clear, and we all made it clear, that if we lose, Putin wins. And this will be very, very dangerous for the United States. So we cannot let Putin influence through any surrogate what we need to do for Ukraine. He also made one other point. He needs the aid quickly.
It's always the same fucking narrative. Israel is the first line of defense against Islamic terrorism. Ukraine is the first line of defense against fucking Russian imperialism. It's just like, it's so interesting. We're always on the right side of history, thank God.
If we don't give the aid quickly, several things will happen. First, the military needs, but
like,
second,
America's so bad that even when we're on the right side of a conflict, we're still on the fucking wrong side. Like, we'll be on the right side of a conflict and still take the wrong position. It is honestly something that deserves to be studied. Like, how do you do that? You're on the right side for the wrong reasons? What do you mean, me? Anyway, it's very, very frustrating. It's additionally frustrating when you hear, like, progressive people hit the fucking, you don't understand. This is about, like, Ukrainians and what they need and what they want. Meanwhile, like, that's just a selling point, dude. That is just a way to try and sell this. This never-ending invasion. Eventually, one side is going to fucking run out of people. And right now, at least statistically, at least looking at populations, the side that's running out of people is the Ukrainian side. It is about what they need morally. They're the ones suffering an invasion. Yeah, the problem is, I'll tell it to you like this, okay? Israel versus Palestine. If America gets involved as an honest actor in that situation, okay, and tries to put forward a real, legitimate peace process, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. The fuck? What do you think I've been pushing for? I've been pushing for a fucking ceasefire since the beginning. Pushing for an end to the occupation. It's the same principle in Russia versus Ukraine. All matter of war ends in peace treaties. That's how it ends. That's it. Lunch, try on, hog. What are you munching on? Same shit I munch on every day.
Europe and many other allies will say, what is going on here? They're not giving them the aid.
In Washington, Kirsten Harris, Channel 11 News.
Well, that argument is one that's just not working for Republicans. We spoke to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham after that meeting, and he was hardline about it. When we said, does it make a difference that Zelensky, who is a wartime leader, has come here to make the case? He said, no, no, no. And he said, to quote the senator, that he believes that Zelensky is being used by Democrats. So Zelensky has quite the challenge, and as you mentioned
listen to me. Listen, the Republicans aren't doing this out of the fucking kindness of their hearts either, obviously. They don't give a shit. They know that it's no longer as popular, from the eyes of the American population, endless amounts of money and supply to Ukraine. So they can use that as a bargaining chip to push for other shit, like funding the border wall, which the Democrats will inevitably capitulate to, because or I guess, like, wait for the military-industrial complex to give a whipping to the Republican Party, because this benefits their. I mean, this is like funding Ukraine is their priority. In not a single part of this conversation do we actually feature what is in the best interest of Ukrainians in general. I hope you understand that. Like, it's not because like Lindsey Graham is pushing Z and he's like pro. It's not like Lindsey Graham is fucking pro Russia. He's the one who literally famously said the 5% of our military budget thing that I mention all the time. It's just he knows that this is a politically sound moment. This is a politically opportunistic moment for someone like him and the Republican Party to tack on, because military-industrial complex spending is always going to be bipartisan. He can tack on some shit. The Republicans know that they can just, add additional agenda items to the Ukrainian funds. But not a single person is thinking, okay, how many more Ukrainians need to die in the hands of the Russian invasion until we say, okay, maybe they've run out of forces. Maybe we've privatized enough of the Ukrainian infrastructure, enough of their services, and maybe now we can just like start talking about ending this conflict rather than continuously managing it.
You know, he's going to meet the Speaker of the House.
I don't see how negotiations will allow Ukraine to get any land back. What Russia has occupied now, they will not give away after sacrificing so much manpower and equipment. It will be the end of Putin. He won't have achieved even the basic goals. It will likely also be the end of the Zelensky government, and the Ukrainian population will hate him and likely turn on the West, feeling betrayed. It's also unclear, understandably, whether Ukrainian units will stop fighting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a bad assessment of the situation. I don't think he's wrong. Like, we might disagree on NATO. I don't know what Elon's take is on NATO, but I don't think this is an unfair assessment. I think this is correct. The situation is fucked on every side, okay? I don't know. I mean, Putin's political end is the only hopeful side of this that is not going to happen. That's like that I don't agree with. Because that's like, as someone who's Turkish, I know what that copium smells like. You know what I mean? Oh, Erdogan's going to die any moment now. Zelensky's done, though, for sure. Like, not only is Zelensky done, but the political chaos that will occur in Ukraine with a sense of betrayal, that the Ukrainian people will feel is real. I don't know if they'll actually turn the crosshairs on America. Kurds never did. You know what I mean? I think that ultimately, because they have an established nation state, they'll probably strive for political power. Like the more nationalist, more reactionary forces will strive for political power internally. And I suspect that the American State Department will offer that to them once they recognize that like Zelensky is coming across like a conciliatory force in order to. The reactionaries are super anti-Russia. It is their left who is in some ways always pro-Russia. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I mean, I don't know what the exact opinion is now because war hasn't stopped. But I would assume that it's significantly more, it's their opinion of Russia in Ukraine is way worse than it was pre-invasion. Like, no question. Wait, hold on. This is a good take. Someone said, what are you talking about? Zelensky is actually very popular in Ukraine. Betrayal of what? Zelensky is so much respected in Ukraine by everyone. The only person that is as much respected is Zelensky, who is the commander-in-chief. Yeah, and as far as I understand, there's like internal conflict between these two figures that you just brought up. So, yeah. Do you think that ensures stability?
The House Republican Mike Johnson, and then he's going to the White House to talk to President Biden.
Nomia, we are less than a year away from the next presidential election. Is politics playing a part in all of this?
I think it probably is, because whilst Zelensky is coming with a powerful message, and we heard that from Chuck Schumer, which is, we need this money. We need it now. If we don't get it, we will not win the war in Ukraine. We will not beat Russia, and Vladimir Putin will become a nightmare for everyone. That's a pretty powerful message. But Republicans have a powerful message to send back, which is about border security. Border security.
This is so stupid. American politicians are looking at this and going, dog, we gave you tanks. You said they came in too late, which there's truth to. And your counteroffensive failed. Okay, what's 61 additional billions of dollars going to do? It's still not going to push the Russian positions. And then that'll look like a major waste of funds domestically.
US-Mexico is an issue that has confounded lawmakers here for decades. It's an incredibly contentious issue, and it's one that matters to the American public. And the Republicans are saying, you care about your security, we care about our security, we care about security on the border. And that is a powerful argument to make to the American electorate. So I think it's fair to say that politics, domestic politics, is playing a huge part in this discussion.
Never thought you were out of touch. Okay, so because you think U.S. is on the wrong side of the Israel-Palestine conflict, the Ukrainians have to pay for it? What the fuck? I never said that. Where are you getting that from? I said the United States is on the right side on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. However, they're in it for the wrong reasons. And what that means is that they will continue to prolong the conflict rather than get to the fucking table and try to manage a solution. And the only thing you do in that circumstance, because this is objectively a proxy war, regardless of what the Ukrainian people's opinions are, is it, do we kick the can down the road? Do we kick the can down the road another 6 months? Obviously, there's a long winter ahead, which is most likely going to halt conflict dramatically, but make it much harder to preserve safety, security, peace in Ukraine when Russia is bombing Western positions, targeting the fucking electricity, targeting the infrastructure, so that the Ukrainian population suffers further on purpose, which is precisely what they're going to fucking do during the winter. And they have been doing that already. So the point is, do you end it? Do you try to end it now? Which, by the way, Russia might not follow through on, for the record. And that part I do believe, right? And if they don't, then there you go. You now have reaffirmed support from the American population that Russia is not interested in peace. Now you could take an infinitely more militant position, and you're back to square one anyway. The point is, this conflict is going to end. It's either going to end now, it's either going to end a couple months from now, or it's going to fucking end a year from now. The only thing that's going to happen in that time frame is that, people are just going to die. They're going to keep dying in massive numbers. We know Russia is not interested in peace. Okay. That shouldn't stop you from trying, though, right? That's the whole point. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying that Russia is definitely an honest actor in this and that they are going to certainly abide by conditions of peace. My point always is, and it's just like the same for the apartheid of Israel, for example, where I say, like, look, end the apartheid. If hostilities continue in that degree, worst case scenario, you restart the apartheid. Back to square one. Engage in an attempt to bring all the actors to the table and engage in an attempt for a ceasefire. If fucking Russia continues bombing positions, if Russia continues going crazy, then okay, you go back to square one. It's the same shit. You know what I mean? That's it. That's my perspective on the matter. I don't think that's a fucking insane thing to say. You say, we know Russia is not interested in peace. Okay, then fucking you'll continue the war. What is so scary about trying to manage the conflict in order to avoid further casualties? Like avoiding the top of the hour ad break, which comes at the top of every hour. I don't even think Ukraine should offer Crimea. I think what Zelensky did early on was say, we'll talk about Crimea with a referendum 15 years down the line. That's a brilliant way to just kick the can down the road. So they've already suggested positions that Russians have agreed to, the Russian parties have agreed to. That's it. This fucking chatter is the one who's dense. If you care about human lives, don't you? If you do, then you should want to end the conflict. This judge just wants to beat his chest on behalf of Ukrainians from the comfort of his home. No, I mean, he could be a Ukrainian. There are plenty of Ukrainians who get very mad at me when I talk about this issue. There are plenty of Ukrainians who get mad at me when I talk about this issue. They're like, oh, you don't care about our perspective. And it's like, no, I just don't want more people to die for no fucking reason. It shouldn't take another year and hundreds of thousands of fucking Ukrainians to die as the age of conscription goes up, as forced conscription becomes a reality, as Ukrainian women are also now joining the fucking battle. You know what I mean? Like, is that better? Is that going to be better? I don't think so. It's horrifying. Anyway, like I was saying, 3-minute ad break is upon us. Here it is.
Nomia Iqbal, for the moment, thank you very much. Joining us live from Capitol Hill. Well, we can now go to our correspondent in Kyiv, Jessica Parker. Good to talk to you as well, Jessica. Jessica, how essential is this funding to the Ukrainian counteroffensive?
Hugely crucial. I mean, you ask in terms of how crucial it is the Ukrainian counteroffensive. It's not exactly clear that that counteroffensive really is happening in terms of on the land at the moment. Recently, we've heard President Zelensky actually talk about a new phase of the war. There seems to be more emphasis on defence and fortifications along existing lines, as winter, as you can see, clearly has arrived across Ukraine. But longer term, it is really crucial. If you look at the statistics, America is by far and away Ukraine's single.
By the way, do you think Putin will accept punting 15 years on Crimea? Yes, I know they have already. The Russian delegation already did in the Turkish 15-point peace agreement.
Biggest backer so far in terms of military aid. No European ally or country really comes close in that regard, although the EU has donated a lot of economic assistance. And when you speak to people here, just people in the streets or officials as well, it's not like they turn around and say to you, oh, well, if US aid doesn't come through, then, you know, we'll find a way forward. I mean, of course, they will keep fighting, but actually the attitude much more seems to be, we're counting on that US aid, we hope it will come through, we have faith that they will find a way forward. So there is this sense that it's almost incomprehensible at the moment for Ukrainians to think that that aid could start to fade away.
And just briefly, Jessica, just want to pick up on what you just said about speaking to people in Ukraine. What is the wider mood at the moment about how the war's going?
It's a really difficult time, actually. I think it's fair to say, speaking to people, it feels like the most difficult time since around the start of the actual invasion itself. A few reasons for that briefly. The counteroffensive seen to have faltered. Obviously, the world's attention has been diverted by what's happening in Israel and Gaza. And as well, there is this deep concern about wavering Western aid, because it isn't just the US. There's also been some struggles as well, ongoing struggles to approve some economic aid from the European Union, and that looks like it's all going to come to a head on Thursday at a summit in Brussels.
Political gridlock on Capitol Hill may be jeopardizing the fight against Russia in Ukraine. Right now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Washington pleading for Congress to approve more military aid for his country. Next hour, he's scheduled to sit down one-on-one with President Biden. This morning, he met with senators and House members arguing that the political bickering over Ukraine aid is exactly...
Bro, there's like a 7-to-1 artillery difference right now, I think. I looked at some numbers earlier with like Russian artillery versus Ukraine. And Biden is the biggest fucking fake friend of all time, where he receives Zelensky literally the morning after, like a couple hours after, sending a fuck ton of tank shells and artillery to Israel via emergency authorization. It's literally the equivalent of like fucking your ex-girlfriend's best friend, and then like while the nut is still in your fucking underpants, talking to your ex-girlfriend and being like, no, I'll cuddle with you. It's all good, baby. I still love you. It's insane. Straight up, dude. What the fuck are we doing? Incredibly cucked. Who needed that analogy? Me, dude. I needed it.
what Vladimir Putin wants to see.
And yet, so far, Republicans seem unmoved. Some GOP senators even walked out of their meeting Also today, we have newly declassified U.S. intelligence about Russia's strategy and why the Kremlin is aiming for a winter stalemate. We have CNN chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju. He is on the Hill, along with CNN reporter Katie Bo-Lillis. Manu, let's start with you. I mean, as we await this White House meeting, what are you hearing on the Hill?
Yeah, nothing has changed. In fact, the stalemate persists, and there are real fears that there's aid to Ukraine. Even the supporters who back aid to Ukraine believe that this will drag into next year, despite the urgent pleas by the president of Ukraine, who is poised to leave Capitol Hill empty-handed. He met behind closed doors with Senate Republicans and Senate Democrats, trying to make his case about why aid is needed. I'm told that he told senators he expected that they would eventually come through, and he indicated that the money would be looked at. There'd be significant accountability in Ukraine for federal dollars. Then he met with the Speaker of the House and the House Democratic leader. But the fact of the matter is that Republicans are still insisting that there needs to be a deal to deal with the southern border with Mexico, to tighten immigration restrictions. They said that must come first before they agreed to approving aid to Ukraine, even as there is no path for a deal on immigration, as the two sides remain badly divided. Something that even staunch supporters of Ukraine aid, like Senator Mitt Romney, indicated must be dealt with first, immigration, before.
I think the funniest part about this back and forth is that, like, nobody is talking about the truth. Okay? What do I mean by this? Ukraine's problem isn't simply munitions. It's also human resources. Like, they don't have enough people, right? They're running out of people. Sure, bullets will help and artillery will help, but they're also running out of people. America's problem, on the other hand, isn't that they don't have enough money. Of course they have money. They just print it. It's fake. America's problem, on the other hand, is that there is a finite amount of resources. So yes, you can, as a matter of fact, it turns out, unironically run out of bullets, even if you are the American government, because there is literally a finite amount of munitions. So when you're giving it to Israel as well, or when you're doing the unlimited tap to Israel, when you're redirecting it to Israel, you can't do it. You can't do it for Ukraine and Israel at the same time, to the same degree. That goes the same way for the Russians too. But it seems like the Russian economy is like full tilt war economy. The American economy, on the other hand, is not like World War II levels of war economy, where all of our industrial output is like completely redirected, where, you know, we're actually going to start rationing fucking certain things because certain chemicals and certain supplies have to be given to Ukraine, or have to be used in the front lines so that we can give enough artillery shells to Ukraine. Like, that would be fucking unimaginably unpopular. No American will be on board with that. Get the fuck out of here. We're incredibly selfish people. So, like, obviously, as a country that's very far away from this conflict, we don't have, as a country that's very far away from this conflict, we're just kind of giving people a lot, giving people the best we can, okay? As many bullets, as many munitions as we can. But we don't have enough to ramp up production. There's still a finite amount of resources. There's still a finite amount in production that you can only achieve. Bro, just stop having takes on Ukraine and you're fine. Ukraine literally means the end of Russia, lol. Yeah, dude, you're right. Guys, Russia is going to fall any day now. China is going to fall any day now. Every single one of you guys are right. I promise, you're right. You got it. Are you advocating for the increasing of the military industrial complex? No, of course I'm not. But I also don't believe that that'll happen either beyond what we've done so far. Like, what we're talking about would require America to go back to like World War II levels of production so that Ukrainians can manage their conflict and hopefully not die or not run out of humans as they do that. That is a prospect that doesn't seem achievable. Me bringing this up does not mean I'm fucking pro-Russia, okay?
There's a deal on Ukraine.
Reality is that the House is not going to take up a Ukraine bill unless it includes securing the border to the level that existed under the 3 prior presidents. When people elect a Republican majority in the House, you have to listen to what they have to say.
Are you concerned that if there's no money, Ukraine could lose the war to Russia?
Well, that's always been a big possibility the whole time. I mean, I've never thought they could win to begin with, especially the way we eased into it.
What are the implications that if Russia wins? Are you worried about the implications if Russia wins?
Well, everybody keeps saying they're going to continue to go across Europe. I mean, they can't beat Ukraine on the eastern side. How are they going to continue to go the rest of the way through Europe? I've never believed that scenario. I think it's a good selling point to send more money.
So you're hearing the divide.
I can't believe this
GOP
fucking baboon
side.
is not wrong.
Some like Tommy Tuberville saying no more money at all for Ukraine. Others saying at least there needs to be a deal on border security first before agreeing on aid to
what are they
Ukraine.
going to do? They can't get
there
across
is no
Ukraine.
deal in sight between the two parties on border security, which
Of course,
is why President Zelensky,
he's also contradicting
despite these urgent
himself,
appeals, leaving Washington without any aid.
'Cause he
Unclear
just said they
when
would
and
lose.
if that may happen. Guys.
Manu, thank you so much for the update. We want to bring in Katie Bolilis now because, Katie, you have some new reporting on this declassified intelligence report that was provided to members of Congress, and it's really providing startling details about Russia's losses on the battlefield.
Yeah, some pretty staggering numbers here, Boris. This intelligence assessment provided to Congress yesterday reports...
I mean, they took parts of Moldova. Brother, if you think that, like, America gives a single fuck about Moldova, I don't know what to tell you, dog. We don't even give a shit about Ukraine. I've been trying to explain this to you. What the fuck? Motherfucker said Moldova. Where is Moldova, Mama Liga, when you need him? Zelensky told senators Ukraine is considering conscripting men over 40 years old to bolster its frontline troop levels. This spells doom. This doesn't look like a situation that's good to me. That's what I was trying to explain to you motherfuckers earlier. It don't matter, even if you fucking hit. All right, what is this guy saying? The Ukraine defender in the chat that thinks I'm a Russia defender. Wraith 4M. Damn, if Ukraine falls and Russia attacks a NATO country, all these GOP will be proven wrong immediately. Well, will they? Because at that point, I didn't say you're a Russia defender. Okay, I apologize. In numbers, yes. In quality, no. This might be code for me, but Russia can't produce shells from themselves either. Yeah, no. I know. They're not doing it themselves either. They're getting it from Iran and North Korea. I read something about a test of 1K shells fired, only 82 reached a point. Certainly, even if they don't have the best fucking shells, though. And this is like the report we read from the Ukrainian dude. What was his name? The one, I think it was like the one-eyed Ukrainian soldier guy who literally was like saying, it doesn't matter. Even if a conscript snake, yeah. Even if a conscript has a shitty, rusty fucking weapon, they can still hold a position and hold up our line for extended periods of time. And in a game of inches, when war is won and lost on hours, right? One fucking shitty conscript with a shitty ass weapon can still hold up a fucking line. A rusty shell will do the job. That's the point. So ultimately, this is what I'm trying to talk about when I say, like, there's an end to this, right? Yeah. And increasing productions of shells from the American side is going to be much more difficult. And it will take time to, like, basically get to the industrial output that you need for Ukraine to defend itself. That's why America is going to South Korea, a nation state with a lot of shells and artillery directed into North Korea, and Russia is going to North Korea. I think ultimately the real major point of contention that is going to happen in the inevitable treaty is whether or not Russia takes over the annexed positions that it has already annexed into Russia formally on their end. Like LPR, DPR, already Russia is like, yeah, we're taking those. But then beyond that, do they advocate to continue managing the annexed territory of Ukraine, which in my opinion is impossible and would 100% be the shittiest deal that Ukraine is not going to agree to, and they shouldn't. It's fucking bullshit. So we'll see. There are inputs you may be missing. 1, Ukrainian drone squads have incredibly high kill counts compared to RU drone squads. 2, Ukrainians retreat after running out of ammo, while Russians retreat after running out of bodies. Fatality rates 90% have been consistently witnessed. 3, Russian Air Force have been forced to base further out due to longer range missiles. All 3 points show that better tech and more ammo from the USA would have a real effect. Okay, but they already have better tech and ammo from the United States. That hasn't stopped. The battle positions are still fucking hardened. That's my point. If that was correct across the board, like if that actually yielded the results you're claiming it yielded, then Ukraine would not be in a stalemate right now. I already acknowledge that Russia has infinitely more human resources to throw by force at the fucking problem. They just straight up don't give a shit. They don't care. They could just keep doing mass human waves. Then why would they negotiate? Then why would Russia negotiate? Because throwing mass human waves at a fucking stalemate on annexed territory is not the same as no longer throwing mass human waves and permanently annexing certain parts of the territory that you can manage. Obviously, stability is a necessity for both countries here. So yes, it is still in Russia's interest to also maintain some semblance of stability. Russia isn't using human waves, and saying that is going to hurt your credibility. Okay. Sorry. Russia is actually super tactical, and they're doing precise striking and definitely not outmaneuvering their opponents by sheer numbers. Or even in instances where like there is a larger Ukrainian military presence, even one singular person is able to hold up a line, obviously. And when you have so many more people to throw at the problem, you're making it much harder for the Ukrainians to utilize their limited resources adequately. Weasley little lion, dude. Russian losses in the war so far have reached 315,000 deaths or injuries. The Russians have lost about 63% of their tanks, which have been a fleet of 3,500 before the invasion. And the war has set back efforts to modernize the ground force about 15 years. Russia is definitely incentivized to end the war, lol. Ukraine's counteroffensive has now been underway for more than 4 months, and they may have now achieved a breakthrough ahead of the usually harsh winter. This was on the 16th of November. Look at this. This is not what people were looking at when they were talking about this counteroffensive.
And I'm going to give you some of these figures. Reports that of the 360,000 troops that Russia sent into Ukraine initially and that made up their entire standing ground force prior to the invasion, of those, 315,000 have been lost on the...
Man, when I say human waves, I don't mean like directly fucking sending bodies. I'm exaggerating. Jesus Christ, everybody. I don't mean like literally fucking having a lineup of humans rush the trench. I'm just talking about how Russia has the capacity to fucking Russia has the capacity to just fucking keep sending people and having people in areas to hold areas, even if some of them die. They just have more people. And even if some of their guns are fucking shitty, it doesn't matter. It still shoots. Yes, Russia is just having soldiers who are willing to take risks as defenders or not. Anyway.
The battlefield. That's an 87% loss of Russia's standing ground forces before the invasion. Now, look, important to understand that Russia has been able to defray these losses. They have been able to lean on, for example, the Wagner Group with some of their convict fighters. They have also launched a number of conscriptions and mobilizations to try to sort of throw more bodies at this fight. So they have been able to defray some of these losses. Still, this assessment warning, and again, I'm going to quote from this directly, this assessment warning that...
Look at that. The liberal on television is saying the same shit I'm saying.
The war has sharply set back 15 years of Russian effort to modernize its ground force. So huge and important figures. But again, I think very important to be reading this in the...
Bro, that is not a fucking Pyrrhic victory at all. You understand? Why would that be a victory for Ukraine? That is directly analysis talking about the United States of America's interest in the proxy war. You think that's a victory? Wow. Fucking stalemate where Russia objectively has more fucking bodies to throw at the goddamn problem. But guess what? Their military capabilities have withered away. They actually can't advance their ground operations. Oh my God, what a setback. And it's like, dude, that's not a victory for Ukraine or Ukrainians. They're hardening their fucking positions while America is doing fucking the champagne rain dance in the thousands of miles away going, oh, fuck yeah, dude, look at what we did.
Context of what Manu has just been telling us, of course, which is that the real peril for Ukraine here is that U.S. funding may run out. And so I think you're going to hear these sort of staggering numbers, these Russian losses really talked about as evidence that, look, the Ukrainians are capable of exacting costs against the Russian.
Pyrrhic victories when one means that the cost is too high. Yeah, I know. That's why I've said it's not a fucking Pyrrhic victory for Ukraine, because it's not a victory at all.
Military, if they are provided with the military support to get it done.
Yeah, Putin's sort of hoping that maybe they can wait this out and sort of get through the winter and,
That's exactly right. I think one of the other things that you are seeing the intelligence community here in the United States watch very carefully is sort of the way Vladimir Putin is thinking about, the next 12 months or the next 2 years. And right now, the belief is that Putin believes that he can essentially outweight the West, right? That he's going to be able to sort of take advantage of this kind of moment in which there are some real divisions in the domestic politics in the United States and sort of public opinion seems to be kind of in flux about supporting Ukraine, right? And so I think for Putin, there's a real kind of benefit to let's just sit back, let's wait, let's see if the United States will get tired of this.
Katie Bo-Lillis, thank you.
I got in trouble, got criticized very badly by the southern part of my state and some of the southern parts of the country when 35 years ago I said,
Russian soldiers aren't taking risks. They're hooping it and thinking they're going camping and get drawn to the first out in the front. Dog. If what you're saying is true, then how the fuck, like, there's some truth to what you're saying about the conscripts, except if what you're saying was like consistently, objectively the truth, then what the fuck does that say about the Ukrainian military? This kind of consistent posturing is part of the reason why so many people are just misguided about like not moving towards a peace process or any kind of treaty, any kind of cessation of hostilities. Because people that want to have this conversation are the ones who are like in the OSIN community, even though the OSIN community fucking let go of Ukraine too. They just like literally, after the counteroffensive, it feels like no one in the OSIN community even gives a shit about Ukraine. But as far as the sad part of all this is that Russia still has a lot of military vehicles. There's some guy buying satellite pictures from a Russian storage facilities and counting them one by one, and the numbers are pretty high for a country like Ukraine. The problem is that no matter how much you chip away at the Russian military, it seems clearly not enough. It seems clearly not enough to defeat Russia and to purge the invasion in its entirety. And ultimately, that means that battle lines harden, people are fucking camping these positions, Russia is moving on with annexation, and Ukrainians are getting shelled and bombed in the process for no fucking reason. You kick the can down the road to a year in the future, all you're doing is contributing to the death toll to arrive at most likely the same exact solution, if lucky.